In a space enclosed by tree branches, the mother dragon looked at the children bearing heavy wounds with eyes full of admiration and praise. Immediately afterward, she transformed into human form, approached the boy who had lost an arm, and gently called his name Ash Blake. The mother dragon carefully lifted Ash and infused him with a mysterious power, like a blessing. A brilliant light radiated around them as Ash's arm gradually regenerated. Not only was it restored, but a special emblem also appeared on his hand. The scene changed. Under a blood-red moon, Ash was taken to a room, his arm carefully bandaged. In a dazed state, he heard the voice of a strange woman beside the bed, trying to soothe him. While Ash was still confused and unsure of what was happening, the woman suddenly lay on top of him. Then, she gently placed a kiss on his body and explained that this was a ritual, as she was someone born to be entrusted to him. After that mysterious declaration, Ash suddenly woke up, clutching his newly regenerated arm in bewilderment and confusion over the dream he had just experienced. At a certain academy, gigantic dragons soared in the sky above, while students below rejoiced at being able to study together. In the main hall, students gathered densely in front of the bulletin board, excited for the upcoming Ares Dragon Riding Festival. When Ash entered the school, all eyes turned toward him, accompanied by murmurs and gossip. Though he tried to ignore it, the increasingly cruel remarks infuriated Ash. Just as he was about to retaliate, Raymond appeared in time to stop him, followed by Max. Hearing Ash express his frustration about being looked down upon along with his pal, Max sighed thoughtfully and seriously reminded him of something. To ease the tension, Raymond quickly changed the topic to talk about the beautiful girls who would be joining the class, leaving Ash helpless and Max sighing in exasperation. The first class began with a lecture on the Seikoku emblem, the symbol of the bond between a master and their dragon. When the teacher mentioned that dragons only allowed their chosen master to ride them, the whole class turned to mock Ash. The teacher then continued explaining about the two nations Chevron, the land of dragons, and Zephyros, the land of machinery and magic, while reminding everyone that honor was important for students of Anselivan Dragonar Academy. After class, Raymond approached Ash to chat. At that moment, Sylvia appeared, sternly scolding a group of students blocking the doorway, which annoyed them. Recognizing her, Ash asked Raymond to confirm. Raymond softly replied and explained that Sylvia Lautremont was the fourth daughter of the Night Empire, famous for her academic excellence but shunned due to her royal demeanor. As they left the classroom and went down to the hall, Raymond asked if Ash would participate in the Ares festival. Ash immediately declined, saying he had no pal. Raymond, still persistent, tried to see Ash's Seikoku and grabbed his left hand. Ash quickly pulled it back and gave a vague response. Just then, Student Council President Rebecca Randall entered, causing the entire student body to rush toward her in excitement. Raymond looked at Rebecca with admiration, fantasizing about touching her. Rebecca smiled in their direction, making Raymond believe she had overheard everything. Ash took that chance to slip away and avoid trouble. After the break, dragon riding practice began on the school grounds. Since he didn't have a dragon, Ash had to borrow Bridget from Raymond. Before starting, the teacher gave detailed instructions. On the signal, students immediately mounted their dragons and the training session began. The dragons charged fiercely at one another in battle. Sylvia, controlling Lancelot, launched relentless attacks. The teacher was helpless while Raymond, standing outside, continued to comment with enthusiasm. As Ash rode Bridget in the sparring match, his intense focus led him to make Bridget jump too forcefully, colliding with Sylvia's Lancelot, causing the match to be halted. The teacher quickly rushed over to scold Ash. As Ash was about to apologize to Sylvia, she slapped him. Arrogantly, Sylvia blamed everything on Ash, prompting Raymond to step in and explain. However, Sylvia coldly stated that Ash's dragon was dead, enraging him to the point of wanting to strike her. Raymond quickly held him back. Ash refused to back down and demanded Sylvia take back what she said. Sylvia challenged Ash that if he could defeat her in the Ares festival, she would apologize. Just like that, the duel between the two was officially established. As night fell, Ash once again found himself helpless before Navi. He was visibly irritated, but could do nothing as she continued to tease him and probe his weaknesses on this final night. When sunlight filtered through the window, Ash was still drowsily calling Navi's name when Raymond woke him up with urgent knocking. At the Ares festival, Rebecca gave the opening speech, announcing that the winner would have their results recorded in the school records and gain the chance to go on a date with her. Sylvia then delivered a brief but determined speech, aiming straight at Ash, declaring that she would give her all even though this wasn't an official competition. Hearing that, the students gossiped, even dragging others into the conversation, making Ash uncomfortable. Immediately after, the race began. Dragons raced through various obstacles, from city streets to the skies. When they entered a tunnel, Ash saw 3 students blocking Sylvia's path, yet she showed no reaction. Unable to watch idly, Ash intervened. The 3 crashed into each other and fell flat, creating a chance for Sylvia to surge ahead, but she still didn't bother to thank Ash. Overcoming each obstacle, both Ash and Sylvia remained determined to win. Upon reaching a clearing in the forest, Ash stopped to rest and encouraged Bridget. Knowing well that the outcome of the duel was already decided due to the difference in their species, Ash wasn't upset but rather cheerful. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed from deep within the forest. Ash left Bridget behind and ran in. He discovered an ancient ruin, and as he approached, a voice echoed it was a warship from the Zephyros Empire. A man appeared, armed, making Ash wary. The man, Milgauss, laughed with amusement and asked Ash's age. Upon hearing he was 16, Milgauss showed some surprise. Ash immediately became suspicious and asked how he knew about his Seikoku. Milgauss vaguely replied that it was because he was cursed. At that moment, a girl named Anya suddenly appeared and attacked Ash to protect Milgauss. Ash immediately fled but was chased. As they exchanged words, Anya told him that meeting them was just his bad luck. Yet when she pinned him down, she couldn't bring herself to strike. Ash took the chance to kick her aside. Just as Anya was about to attack again, a rock wall unexpectedly collapsed. Ash pulled her back, sacrificing himself in the process, and fell into a ravine. Anya was stunned. Milgauss appeared and told her to leave. Meanwhile, as Ash seemed on the verge of death, the Seikoku on his hand began to glow. Milgauss and Navi, elsewhere, also sensed the surge of power. In his daze, Ash saw a large round object floating before him. When he touched it, it shattered, revealing a petite girl. Holding her in his arms, Ash wondered why she was a human and not a dragon. Navi's image appeared, along with cryptic words. Ash was half convinced, half doubtful, wondering if the girl might be his pal. As Ash was staring at Iko, she suddenly woke up as if from a long sleep, realized her awkward situation, and without hesitation, punched Ash, sending him flying straight into a lake. Hands on hips, Iko scolded Ash while completely naked. Ash turned away in embarrassment and tried to confirm whether she was really his pal. Once confirmed, Ash excitedly reintroduced himself, but was shut down when she insisted that she was the master, not him, leaving him dumbfounded. The story shifted to an introduction of the Zephyros Empire in the north and Chevron in the south, along with the dragon-rearing land of La Tremont and the Anselivan Academy, where those who had contracts with dragons were trained, including Ash. At night, Ash secretly brought Iko back to his dorm. She criticized his room as shabby and casually climbed into bed to sleep. While Ash was fast asleep, Iko suddenly pressed up against him, making him think she was sleepwalking. However, her bites made him realize otherwise. Ash let her be until she complimented his scent and bit down harder, making him unable to endure it. The next morning, when Ash groggily opened the door, Rebecca and Max were there. Rebecca calmly explained they were just there to check on his pal. Just then, Iko woke up and dropped the blanket, prompting Max to grab Ash by the collar in outrage after seeing the ambiguous traces. Rebecca remained composed, realizing they hadn't shared a bed, and cleared Ash's name. Iko declared that dragons didn't need clothes, prompting Ash to hurriedly cover her with a blanket. Rebecca handed clothes to Iko and moved on to the main issue. The Academy had asked Professor Cornwell to help address the matter of Ash's pal. Max explained that Cornwell was a specialist in dragon examinations. Rebecca advised Ash to keep Iko inside his room and reminded him to visit the Dragon Care support room to receive his allowance. Grateful for the help, Ash thanked her profusely. Iko, now dressed in her new, extremely eye-catching outfit, drew everyone's attention. She excitedly admired herself in the mirror, praising her own appearance while Ash stood helpless. As Ash was wondering what he should buy for her, a crepe stand caught Iko's attention. She claimed she was hungry because she hadn't eaten breakfast. Trying crepes for the first time, Iko was thrilled and declared she would eat them every day. When Ash reminded her that dragons had to eat meat, she suddenly weakened and collapsed into his arms, saying she felt hot. Panicked, Ash tried to take her to the infirmary, but Iko held him back. Under the gaze of onlookers, the atmosphere between the two became incredibly delicate. Just as their lips were about to touch, Sylvia and Cosette suddenly appeared. Sylvia scolded them, and when Ash, flustered, tried to explain, Iko suddenly sneezed, causing Ash to accidentally glimpse something he shouldn't under Sylvia's skirt, resulting in a punch. Sylvia became furious upon learning that the crepe contained anthar. Cosette quickly gave Iko a drink to lower the concentration. She explained that anthar was like alcohol, and feeding it to dragons was illegal. Sylvia was baffled that Ash could forget something so important. Cosette reminded her of the main reason they came. Sylvia admitted she was wrong to say Ash's pal was dead and apologized to him. Being a princess, she was embarrassed and quickly turned away and left. Cosette bid farewell and followed her. As Ash gazed after them with admiration, Iko pulled him back in jealousy and scolded him, unaware that someone was secretly watching from afar. When Ash turned to look, the figure had already disappeared. After the commotion, Ash and Iko continued shopping. At a women's clothing store, when the staff referred to her as Ash's little sister, Iko furiously pulled the curtain aside in protest, even though she was still trying on clothes. After shopping, Ash sat exhausted near a waterfall with Iko, who was still asking for more crepes despite not finishing the one she had. During their bickering, Ash realized Iko didn't have a name. He told her he had intended to call her Iko from the beginning, as it was the name of the first pal of the breeder Rosa Maria. The moment she received her name, a wave of power radiated from her, and the seikoku on Ash's hand lit up. The contract between them was formed, and their astral flow became one. Iko then went to use the public restroom nearby, unaware that someone was secretly watching her. As she was washing her hands, that person appeared behind her with a bottle of dangerous liquid. The scene shifted to Sylvia and Cosette talking about earlier events, with Sylvia awkwardly trying to justify herself. Reunited with Ash in the awkward situation at the women's restroom, Sylvia immediately scolded him. Ash retorted, saying Iko had been inside too long. The two quickly investigated and found Iko's hat and traces of Alron powder, evidence of her kidnapping. Ash recalled a strange sensation earlier and linked it to Milgaus and Anya. Sylvia deduced Ash's intention to search for Iko and tried to stop him. For the first time, Ash used his seikoku to activate the astral flow under Sylvia's guidance. When he focused on Iko, the mark glowed and created a trail of blue butterflies that led the way to where she was being held. Ash followed the butterflies to an abandoned mansion. While he was trying to open the door, Sylvia noticed a magic circle with Alron stones on the stone pillars. Once Ash managed to open the door, they hurried inside, unaware that the stones had begun to glow. Meanwhile, in a laboratory, Iko awoke bound tightly. The woman who had kidnapped her, Angela, admired her power and revealed her goal was to experiment on Iko to understand why dragons had human forms. Angela was surprised to find Iko more intelligent than other dragons and decided to dissect her body. Just in time, Ash and the others arrived. Sylvia broke down the iron door, forcing Angela to stop. Furious, Ash demanded an explanation. Angela calmly replied she was acting under the Academy's orders. Sylvia recognized who she was, and Ash, recalling Rebecca's words, muttered in disbelief. Angela explained her reasons, but Ash refused to accept them and demanded she return Iko. Angela immediately revealed a stash of Alron powder as her trump card, causing the entire mansion to shake. Thanks to the Oracle's magnetic field, dragons couldn't get close. She then summoned a magic circle that put Sylvia and Cosette to sleep. Ash tried to resist the drowsiness but eventually collapsed as well. Angela's actions were not driven by malice. She didn't want to harm someone who bore the dragon hunter's mark. With tears in her eyes, Iko screamed loudly, activating the astral flow that resonated with Ash and awakened him. With a single swing of his arm, Ash shattered the magic circle and destroyed the Alron. Angela watched in shock as Ash approached her with overwhelming presence. Iko ran to him, sobbing uncontrollably, then delivered the third punch of the episode. After an exhausting day, Ash returned to the dorm, sitting beside a sleeping Iko and lamenting in disbelief that everything really happened. He repeated the same question from before, but this time gently stroked her hair with a sense of peace. The next morning at school, Raymond ran after Ash, asking about the rumors from the previous day. Ash initially panicked, thinking Raymond meant Angela, but sighed in relief when Sylvia was mentioned instead. Raymond found Ash's reaction suspicious, but let it go. Neither Ash nor Sylvia expected Angela to become their new subject teacher. While the rest of the class was thrilled, Ash and Sylvia were horrified and in denial. At that moment, inside the student council room, Rebecca was leaning close to Ash under a very legitimate pretense. She then dropped a shocking announcement that left Ash both flustered and terrified. Under Ash's stunned gaze, Rebecca leaned in and finished her sentence. It turned out she was inviting him to join the student council. Meanwhile, Sylvia was gently grooming Lancelot, softly expressing gratitude for his presence, which allowed her to become a dragon trainer. In the next moment, she silently recalled her childhood promise to become a great dragon knight alongside Ash. As if sensing her change in mood, Lancelot tenderly touched his head to Sylvia, trying to comfort her. While being comforted by Lancelot, Sylvia suddenly clenched her fist in anger at Ash's act of riding a dragon. Her thoughts were interrupted by a panicked cry. It turned out a dragon had escaped. Without hesitation, she rushed to where the guards were gathered and was informed that Estrada had fled. Back in the awkward atmosphere between Ash and Rebecca in the student council room, she noticed his unease and quickly reminded him of the strange individuals he'd encountered, as if to persuade him. Without giving him a chance to reply, Rebecca began explaining the Zephyros Empire's misunderstanding about the Academy, then firmly emphasized her own critical role. Returning to a serious tone, Rebecca formally extended the invitation to Ash, despite him still being overwhelmed by confusion. Suddenly, a level 2 emergency alarm rang out, putting both of them on high alert. They rushed to the window to assess the situation below. What Ash and Rebecca saw was Sylvia trying to ride the Strata, which left Ash baffled. Rebecca calmly explained that Sylvia couldn't stand losing and wanted to outdo Ash at all costs. Just as she finished her sentence, she opened the window and leapt out. At the same time, she summoned Chulain and unlocked the arch armor it produced. Meanwhile, in the park, Iko was happily eating pancakes. At the same time, Ash was still reminiscing about Sylvia's heartbreak after Rebecca successfully subdued Strata. Seeing Ash spacing out, Iko's expression darkened. She angrily yanked his ear, making him cry out in pain and beg for mercy. Suddenly, she became curious about a crowd gathering around the statue of the hero Durham. Ash quickly explained to Iko the story behind the statue's past. Their playful scene was caught by Anya's eyes, who watched from a distance, worried about how she would explain everything to Milgauss. Next, Rebecca brought Ash, Sylvia, and Iko to the Dragon's Claw Tavern to discuss the idea of going on a date during the Dragon Racing Festival. On Anya's side, while she was lost in thought, Milgauss kept asking about the current situation in the city. While expressing his amazement at how peaceful the place was, he pulled out a magic sword and summoned Necromantia. Its appearance immediately alerted Iko that something was wrong. The citizens of the city grew terrified and kept fleeing in panic at the overwhelming power of Necromantia. Without hesitation, Ash's group rushed over and discovered that its flesh was rotting. The terrifying destructive power of the creature left Sylvia stunned, falling back onto the ground. With boundless courage, Iko dashed forward and directly confronted Necromantia. In Ash's eyes, filled with surprise and worry, the creature released its tentacles that tightly wrapped around her, and with immense strength, Necromantia tore off several pieces of Iko's clothing. Right after that, with a single blow, it nearly destroyed the entire city. Fortunately, Rebecca managed to transform in time with her arch gear and blocked Necromantia's attack. She summoned her legendary spear and threw it straight at the creature. The spear didn't betray Ash's hopes and pierced directly into Necromantia's head. But unfortunately for Rebecca, in the blink of an eye, it regenerated and launched another attack at her. Realizing the situation was going badly, Rebecca quickly blocked the strike and ordered Ash to take Sylvia and get out of there. Hearing this, Ash immediately ran over, shouting loudly to Sylvia as if trying to wake her from her overwhelming fear. Seeing her cowardice, Ash slapped Sylvia on behalf of everyone to bring her back to her senses. It seemed the slap worked. He instantly requested Lancelot to get close to Necromantia and save Iko, who had been swallowed. Sylvia didn't think twice and summoned Lancelot just as Ash hoped. Inside Necromantia, Iko was still being tightly bound and tormented by its tentacles. A moment later, she woke up dazed, seeing Navi calmly sitting above and introducing herself. Navi then waved her hand to show Iko the dire situation Ash was in as he tried to tame Necromantia. Navi's face remained composed as she waited for Iko to realize that the most important thing right now was to create a properly fitting arch gear for Ash. At the same time, outside the battle, Ash was still struggling to fight with unwavering belief that Iko was still alive. Hearing his determined voice, Iko became increasingly fired up, and in the blink of an eye, she created a complete arch gear with all the necessary accessories and magic. In that perilous moment, Iko handed the arch gear to Ash, who immediately synchronized with Lancelot and Sylvia with remarkable coordination. Inside the building, Milgauss already knew he would lose this fight, but he calmly turned his back and walked away, having obtained some interesting information. Up in the sky, Ash now skillfully rode atop Necromantia. Fulfilling its final wish, he immediately summoned the Holy Sword and delivered a finishing blow to Necromantia. As soon as it was destroyed, both Ash and Eiko fell freely through the sky, but the two of them cheerfully held hands, feeling as if they had come to understand each other better. The dark power lingering in the sky slowly dispersed, revealing a breathtaking evening sunset. Back at the student council office, Rebecca quickly invited Ash and Sylvia to join the student council, and both accepted. After that, she kissed each of them on the cheek as part of the induction ritual, and raised her glass to begin the welcome party for the new members. At Rebecca's call, everyone in the council raised their glasses and shouted out their cheers. In a dark forest, Sylvia, injured in the leg, was sitting beneath a large tree. A boy about her age appeared. Ash looked at the wound on her leg and said that with an injury like that, she should give up on trying to find the mother dragon. However, the girl needed a pal to become stronger and said she wouldn't give up. Ash said he would carry her, and the two of them would go find the mother dragon together. That was Sylvia's memory. Back then, she had just turned 7 during the Orphan era, when the Dragon Mother was the one who granted pals to mankind. Sylvia was curious what that friend looked like now. Scene shifts to Ash's dormitory. Eiko was sleeping soundly on the bed, while Ash had just fallen over a pile of clutter on the floor. He saw a stuffed dragon and picked it up. Ash looked pensive, but couldn't remember anything about it. At school, Student Council President Rebecca introduced 3 new members of the Anseliven Dragonar Academy Student Council. The first to speak was Sylvia, an executive committee member. As a newcomer, she expected to make mistakes and hoped to learn from everyone. Next was the most troublesome student of the academy, Ash, who was in charge of general affairs. He admitted he wasn't sure how he could help, but said he would do his best. Finally, there was Eiko, the humanoid dragon girl, Ash's pal. Cosette had dressed her in a dazzling dress, and she looked adorable as she stepped out to greet everyone. Eiko raised her hands in a claw-like gesture and let out a cute roar, making everyone burst into laughter. A little later, in the school hallway, Eiko blushed and denounced the act of making a dragon a public laughingstock as unforgivable. Ash stepped in to explain that Cosette only wanted to help, and people laughed because they found her lovable, not to mock her. His first task as a student council member was to remove all flyers posted on bulletin boards without permission. Eiko reached up to take one down and sternly warned that he was only allowed to follow her orders, no one else's. She looked at the flyer in her hand, curious who was the Silver Knight. Ash explained that the Silver Knight was a legendary hero in the novel Holy Dragon Knight, the one who defeated the Necromantia and saved the city. Eiko was surprised. Wasn't this Ash's fan club? Ash scratched his head and laughed sheepishly. Scene shifts to somewhere outside. A horse galloped at full speed. Overhead, a dragon-shaped airship fired deadly cannon shells, attacking fleeing bandits below. One of the bandits spotted a human figure in the distance and quickly warned his comrades it was the Iron Blood Valkyrie. She had long blonde hair and cold blue eyes, and she immediately charged forward. Seeing this, the bandit ordered his men to shoot her down. However, with lightning-fast footwork, the Iron Blood Valkyrie dodged everything with ease. Holding a massive sword in hand, she declared she would eliminate the vermin bandits causing chaos in the nation. Just a few swings of her sword, and she had completed the mission. Back at school, in the classroom, Raymond came to pat Eiko on the head and complimented how beautiful she looked in the dress. At the mention of it, Eiko got angry and punched Raymond hard in the face. Just then, Jessica walked in and introduced herself as the president of the Silver Knight fan club, with Lynette beside her as vice president. Jessica explained that since they hadn't met the Silver Knight yet, they had come to gather more information about their idol. She asked if anyone in this class had seen the hero who defeated the Necromantia. Sylvia stood up and told them to leave, since class was about to start speaking as a student council executive committee member. Jessica laughed condescendingly, disregarding Sylvia's authority and assuming she didn't understand her grand ambition. Sylvia couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. Then Jessica revealed her ambition to have a child with the Silver Knight. This shocking statement left Ash and Sylvia speechless and drove Eiko into a fit of rage. Fortunately, there was still one sane person in the fan club. Lynette pushed up her glasses and criticized that declaration as a violation of the club's sacred rule of innocence, honesty, and cuteness. Jessica immediately retracted her statement and was forgiven by Lynette. Lynette then revealed that Sylvia had been present during the necromantia incident. Jessica instantly asked if she knew the Silver Knight's identity, but got no response. At that moment, Ash told her to leave since class had started. Rebecca then appeared, wanting to talk to the student council, but Jessica arrogantly demanded she reveal everything about the necromantia incident. Rebecca wasn't someone to be threatened. She stepped forward and whispered something into Jessica's ear. Jessica was flustered and called for the entire club to leave. Everyone was once again taken aback. In the student council meeting room, Ash learned that Jessica was not a noble. Rebecca explained that Jessica's family had served her Randall household for generations, and that was how she used threats to control the girl. In reality, Jessica was a good child, but her excessive desire to become a noble made her act irrationally. In this country, archers were considered nobles, and if a commoner married a Silver Knight, they would become a noble. Rebecca warned that if Jessica found out Ash was the Silver Knight, she would stop at nothing to obtain his seed. Sylvia blushed, while Eiko, still innocent, didn't understand what seed meant. Ash refused to explain it to her, so Eiko had to use Dragweorth to find out for herself. Upon learning the meaning of seed, she too blushed. Rebecca then moved on to the main topic. Princess Veronica would be coming to Anselivan to inspect the aftermath of the battle with necromantia. Hearing that her sister would arrive, Sylvia screamed in fear and hid under the table. Outside, after dealing with the bandits and escorting them onto the airship, Veronica changed her course to head for Anselivan. She was quite eager to meet Sylvia. On the bustling streets filled with people, Anya disguised herself as a cute flower girl, quietly observing her surroundings, hoping to find the person who had defeated necromantia, as ordered by Milgaus, but it was harder than she expected. The laughter around her made her feel suddenly out of place amidst the lively city. Back at school, Sylvia remained gloomy and downcast. Ash guessed it was because she heard that Veronica was coming. Cosette decided to tell them the reason. Although Veronica was not a breeder, she possessed superhuman strength and exceptional sword skills, earning her the title Iron Blood Valkyrie. Because of her cruel nature, Veronica had subjected Sylvia to many deadly training sessions, one of which involved surviving on a mountain. Since then, Veronica had become a terrifying trauma in Sylvia's mind. After school, Ash wanted to comfort Sylvia, but was coldly rejected by her. Back in her room, under candlelight and with lavender essential oil helping to ease her mind, Cosette playfully gave Sylvia a massage to help her relax and sleep better. Early the next morning, Sylvia changed clothes, recalling the promise she made to her childhood friend that she would become a great knight. At the castle gates, everyone respectfully waited for the arrival of the Grand Princess Veronica. Ash told Eiko to behave, promising to buy her a crepe if she did. Just when he thought Sylvia wouldn't come, she suddenly appeared, saying she was fine, and joined the welcoming lineup for Veronica. The Sylvanus airship, Veronica's personal warship, appeared in the sky. It ran on the energy of Millennium, a fossil of a 1,000-year-old dragon. As the warship landed, everyone respectfully greeted Veronica. Grand Princess Veronica stepped off the warship and immediately searched for Sylvia. Sylvia stepped out to greet her and walked up to her older sister. Although it had been a long time since they met, Veronica angrily accused Sylvia of deceiving her and struck at her. Sylvia swiftly dodged, smiling as she removed her mask. It turned out to be Cosette in disguise. At that moment, the real Sylvia hurried over to pay her respects. Seeing her sister's stern expression, Sylvia trembled with fear. Veronica punished her sister right in front of everyone, slashing her sword down and tearing Sylvia's uniform. Sylvia, ashamed and humiliated, crouched down to cover her body, while Veronica verbally insulted and belittled her. Cosette quickly rushed over to cover Sylvia with a coat. Ash couldn't take it anymore and spoke up, questioning whether publicly disgracing one's family was the behavior of a true knight. However, Veronica realized that Ash was Ash Blake, and immediately ordered Glenn to take him with her. The scene shifted to a ruined house on a mountain where Anya was writing a letter when a boy rushed in to report bad news. The Iron Blood Valkyrie had arrived in Anselivan, and the people of Tantalos had entered the city seeking revenge. Anya hurriedly descended the mountain to stop them. Back aboard the Sylvanus, Ash was dressed in a servant's outfit. Primrose introduced herself as the person in charge of training him. However, Primrose was so clumsy that she couldn't even handle her own tasks, let alone teach Ash. After a grueling training session, Ash collapsed on the table from exhaustion and discovered several books about legendary dragon knights, so he casually picked one up to read. At the school dormitory, Sylvia placed her slashed uniform on the bed, her sister's scolding still echoing in her head. Meanwhile, Ash was focused on reading a book when he accidentally bumped into Primrose's overflowing fruit tray, causing him to blush and apologize awkwardly. Primrose informed him that Veronica wanted to meet with him. However, before seeing the Grand Princess, Ash needed to undress, as the meeting place was a hot spring built inside the Sylvanus warship. Primrose demonstrated first, standing completely naked in front of him, then signaled the other maids to step forward and strip Ash of his clothes. At the same time, Rebecca and Professor Angela, both wrapped in towels, were also on their way to meet Veronica. Ash was unable to resist the maids, and his last piece of clothing was tossed away. In the massive bath, Veronica inquired about the necromantia incident. Rebecca speculated that it might have been orchestrated by the Empire. Professor Angela explained that it was a monster created through a fusion of magic and alchemy. Veronica believed it to be a conspiracy by Zephyros, though there was no solid proof. At this moment, Ash wondered why he had to be there, but Veronica offered no explanation. Eiko was floating around, intoxicated by the Anthar, enjoying the bath. Veronica felt disappointed that this unimpressive duo was the one who defeated necromantia. Just then, Sylvia entered, surprised to see Ash and Student Council President Rebecca, while Primrose cheerfully greeted her younger sister Cosette. The two sisters then tended to the drunken Eiko together. Veronica announced that she had decided to arrange Sylvia's engagement. Since Julius had been executed for dragon slaying after inheriting the throne, the royal family currently had no successor, and Veronica herself only focused on military affairs. So she decided to betroth Sylvia to Glenn Maguire, one of her knights. However, Sylvia's dream was to become an arch-dragonar alongside Lancelot. Veronica considered that dream foolish, especially in light of the necromantia event. Ash couldn't hold back and defended Sylvia, saying that without her Lancelot, he wouldn't have been able to defeat necromantia. He didn't understand why Veronica judged Sylvia's strength without even seeing it. Smiling, Veronica said there would be a competition tomorrow, and that she hoped Sylvia could prove what her dream was worth. The next morning, in the vast arena, enormous dragons were ready for the tournament. From the observation deck, Eiko wanted to go down and play but couldn't. She blamed herself for being born in such a form. Veronica comforted her, saying that one day she would discover the reason. Down in the arena, the whistle blew to signal the start of the match. A ball was tossed into the air. Sylvia, riding Lancelot, caught the ball and broke through the opposing defense. But just as she was about to score, a giant red dragon stole the ball, and the opposing team scored first. The next round played out similarly. Sylvia led the charge, but was unable to overcome the swift and sudden attack from the red dragon, Tulane. In the end, both Lancelot and Sylvia were knocked down. When she came to, Sylvia found herself in her room, carried back by Ash. She felt deeply frustrated over her loss. At that moment, Rebecca knocked and entered, bringing a guest, Glenn. He had come on Veronica's orders to visit Sylvia. He informed her that Veronica would be visiting the city the next day, but Sylvia was not allowed to accompany her. Instead, she had to go to Valeria Church alone to pray and repent. Before Glenn left, Sylvia asked if he truly wanted to marry her. However, Glenn said he would simply follow Veronica's orders. Ash, feeling indignant for his friend, stepped up to question Glenn's attitude. But to Glenn, Veronica's commands were absolute. Even if she ordered him to die, he would obey. Glenn also reminded Ash to know his place and stop being so arrogant. Sylvia realized that Glenn had changed since Julius's execution for dragon slaying. Veronica had taken Glenn in because she had the power to control a knight as skilled as him. Rebecca then informed Ash that the student council would convene the next morning to discuss the royal observation event. Sylvia was not invited because she was still injured. The next morning, Ash went to the student council meeting room and was suddenly tackled by Eiko. She had gotten drunk on Anthar candy, her body burning hot and clinging tightly to Ash. He quickly pushed her away, but she innocently lifted her skirt high, revealing underwear that was clearly inappropriate for a child. Eventually, Ash found the Anthar candy in Eiko's mouth, but instead of spitting it out, she pushed it into Ash's mouth with a soft kiss, then collapsed into a deep sleep. The one who had given Eiko the candy turned out to be Rebecca. There were only 3 people in the room: Ash, Max, and Rebecca, and the student council president declared that they would follow Veronica. 5 years ago, the Mountain Lord had tried to assassinate Veronica, but failed, and afterward disappeared without a trace. This time, the one they needed to watch out for was Avocha, a high-level wanted criminal. The next day, while the townspeople were busy repairing the city, Veronica arrived. Eiko was upset because her favorite crepe shop had been destroyed. Ash said he might borrow her arch and promised to buy her lots of crepes. Meanwhile, at the Valeria church, Sylvia was earnestly praying and repenting. Suddenly, she heard Jessica's voice praying to receive a seed from the Silver Knight. Sylvia criticized her, saying that Saint Valeria was a guardian of justice, not a patron saint of pregnancy. As the two argued, the church ceiling exploded terrorists and a large dragon descended, and standing on the dragon's back was none other than Avocha, the high-level wanted criminal. Previous scenes flashed back, explaining why Sylvia was at the church and why Avocha was there too. A black smoke column rose from one of the buildings, drawing the attention of many passers-by, including Ash and Veronica's group. Glenn, standing beside Veronica, turned and spoke to her in a tone as if affirming her return. As he finished speaking, she turned away, trying to leave, but Ash stopped her, blurting out something about the princess possibly being there. But Veronica's gaze gave him the true answer. The scene shifted to the Sylvanus ship, where a signal from Valeria Church came through Avocha had appeared on screen. Even Ash was surprised by this reappearance. Avocha and Veronica exchanged words, but then Avocha presented them with a shocking sight. Jessica was tied up, wearing only underwear, with a pitiful expression on her face. A bomb had been placed right under her feet. And that wasn't all. Avocha had captured a whole group of people to use as hostages to threaten Veronica's group. Veronica's gaze toward Avocha turned ice cold. Before leaving, Avocha left behind a highly provocative message for Veronica. While others were terrified, Veronica saw it only as meaningless nonsense. Given the situation, she said, they could simply use Sylvanus to blow up the church. Hearing this made Ash visibly panicked. At the church, Avocha had her guards stationed carefully to avoid any slip-ups that could become a danger. Among the hostages was Sylvia, who looked toward Jessica with great worry. Thinking back on Jessica's words and actions, Sylvia felt conflicted. It should have been her hanging there, not Jessica. Next to Sylvia was also Anya, who considered standing up to help but ultimately couldn't act. Suddenly, the sound of a crying baby startled Anya, and she forced a smile to calm the child. Meanwhile, on the Sylvanus, the talk of Veronica opening fire caused alarm, but Rebecca quickly intervened. She had a solution and whispered it to Veronica. Next, Ash was shown approaching the church alone. Rebecca's words echoed this was part of their plan to rescue the hostages. Ash would act as a distraction to buy time for infiltration. Before leaving, he had even asked Eco to make him a set of arch. Returning to the present, Ash requested to enter the church for negotiations and was led inside by Avocha's soldiers. He was brought before Avocha, but instead of hearing soft negotiations, he uttered words that further terrified the hostages. What truly stunned Ash was Avocha's desire to see Veronica suffer from being separated from her loved ones. At this moment, Eco was trying her best to make an arch a suit for Ash, while behind her, Navi appeared with a nonchalant face and teased her. However, it seemed creating an arch a suit capable of suppressing a nuclear bomb was proving extremely difficult. While Ash was talking with Avdocha, the crying of the baby in Anya's arms caught Avdocha's attention, and she asked Anya to prepare food for her dragon. Ash stepped forward to stop her, but was restrained by the soldiers behind. In front of Anya now was the image of herself about to be made a sacrifice to the dragon. Suddenly, someone stepped in front of her, causing even Jessica to panic. It turned out to be Sylvia. In response to Avdocha's interrogation, Sylvia revealed her royal identity, and everything that had happened was recorded by a device attached to Ash and transmitted to Veronica, though Veronica dismissed it as foolish when she saw it. Avdocha approached, her eyes gleaming with excitement upon seeing that Sylvia, Veronica's younger sister, had stepped up to protect the people, and now wished to die with honor like a knight. Seeing Sylvia's resolve, Avdocha gave a clean slash not to kill her, but to shred every piece of clothing on her body, not even sparing her underwear. Sylvia was left completely naked in front of everyone, which nearly broke her down and made her collapse. At that moment, images from her past resurfaced, mockery and ridicule from both her relatives and friends, all of whom saw her as arrogant just because she was of noble lineage. Just as Avdocha had said, once stripped of royal garments, Sylvia was no different from an ordinary woman. But instead of drowning in these negative memories, Sylvia stood up, taking Avdocha's words as encouragement, and the previous slash as something that shattered the coward within her. It was as if she was reborn into a new person, which greatly surprised everyone present. While Avdocha was still stunned, Glenn and Rebecca emerged from underground, standing in front of Sylvia and the captives as if to protect them. The two immediately struck first, with powerful and decisive attacks that brought down Avdocha's soldiers, even forcing her to retreat. Seeing this, Ash broke free from the soldier's restraint and rushed forward, only to be stopped by Avdacha's blade. Behind her stood the dragon. She ordered it to charge and attack him, but after a flash of light, everyone saw Ash stop the dragon's assault with his bare hand, exuding an overwhelming aura. Thanks to the armor Eiko had managed to create just in time, Ash quickly defeated the dragon. The magical gun on his arm froze the church, the bomb, and even Avdacha, who had intended to detonate it. That moment left a strong impression on everyone. In the end, everything was brought under control. However, it seemed Jessica didn't want to miss the opportunity, so she pounced on Ash, trying to get intimate with him right there in the sanctuary. But thanks to Rebecca, who knocked Jessica out in time, she was stopped. Ash then approached the large statue in the temple following Rebecca's gaze, where Sylvia sat, feeling sad and dejected. Instead of blaming Sylvia for anything, Ash praised her with a voice full of pride and told her to get on his back since she couldn't walk. Though confused by this side of Ash, once on his back, everything felt safe and all burdens seemed to melt away. That night at the mansion, while Ash was sleeping, he was awakened by noise and Jessica's voice. The two wrestled over the matter, which made Eiko furious so much that she kicked Jessica out cold, and Ash didn't come out unscathed either. Early the next morning, Ash, Eiko, and Rebecca went to meet Veronica. Seeing Avdacha there, they learned that she and Veronica had staged the whole play just to help Sylvia grow stronger. However, in that play, Avdacha's search for her long-lost sister was real. In the end, everything was resolved, and things started to improve. The figure of Eiko running swiftly through the dark night appeared. She kept running, her panting grew louder, and then she fell. Tentacles of unknown origin appeared and tightly wrapped around Eiko, and eerie eyes stared at her, as if observing her every move. In the end, she was mercilessly entangled. It turned out to be just a dream, and Eiko woke up in panic from it. Her heavy breathing echoed clearly in the silent room, and furthermore, she realized there was something at her feet. Immediately, she went into the bathroom, then returned to her bed and stood frozen there. It seemed that the noise had woken Ash, who sat up and asked Eiko, assuming it was a blood crystal that a dragon like her had discharged, so he wanted to come and take a look. But it seemed Eiko was embarrassed about something and firmly refused to let Ash get close. Due to his persistence, she eventually let him see it. Apparently, Ash realized that Eiko had wet the bed and carelessly teased her about it. The shame overwhelmed her, making her face as red as a tomato. Because of that comment, Eiko didn't hesitate to give Ash a hit. Somewhere else, at a restaurant, the female owner looked extremely bored as her staff had quit to get married, causing her to lose 3 excellent employees. After chatting for a bit, she realized that Anya had applied to work there. Instead of letting her cook in the kitchen, the owner assigned Anya to work at the front of the restaurant. Back to Ash, he and Raymond were talking on their way to school. They discussed joining the training camp together. The scene shifted to the auditorium, where a professor stood at the podium giving a speech and reading the names of those who would participate in the training camp. The name Luca caused a stir throughout the auditorium, accompanied by surrounding murmurs. According to Raymond, Luca hadn't shown up to class for 3 whole months. She was also the student council's secretary, Luca Saarinen. Just when it seemed everything was done, the professor suddenly mentioned a special invitation, and the one who made that invitation was none other than Rebecca. Without hesitation, she confidently declared that the one being invited was Ash. This sent shockwaves through the auditorium, and even Ash himself was equally surprised. In a certain room, Ash and Rebecca had a small conversation, since his abilities had already been proven defeating dangerous foes, and having a high-level pal like Eiko were great advantages. Their entire conversation was secretly eavesdropped on by Jessica and Sylvia, but because Max had urgent news to report, he barged in and exposed the 2 girls for listening in. It turned out there had been a fire somewhere, so they immediately rushed to the room in question. There, they found a coffin with someone lying peacefully inside. Thinking the girl in the coffin had died, Jessica jumped up in worry, but suddenly the girl sat up as if nothing had happened. It turned out the smoke was from incense, and the girl apologized to everyone for the misunderstanding. After a series of questions, it was revealed that the girl was Luca Saarinen, the one the professor had mentioned earlier in the auditorium, as confirmed by Rebecca. Furthermore, Rebecca introduced more about Luca's elven race and their extraordinary abilities in potion making. The girl was also the one who broke Rebecca's record and became the youngest dragon tamer ever. However, a problem had arisen. Luca hadn't been able to ride her dragon, Gawain, for the past 3 months. It was also revealed that if the astral flow between Luca and Gawain didn't function, the dragon's life would be in danger. Elsewhere, Iko had finished washing her blanket, but while feeling cheerful, she remembered the terrifying image from last night's dream and tore the blanket apart. On Ash's side, he seemed to be pondering what Rebecca had said earlier about Luca and Gawain. As for Anya, though she was taking a bath, her thoughts were still on Ash, causing her to slip and fall when she dropped the soap on the bathroom floor. Seeing herself looking beautiful in her new work uniform in the mirror cheered Anya up a bit. Back with Ash, he carried a bag that also contained food he brought home for Iko. The moment he called her name, she suddenly rushed over and hugged him tightly. While watching Iko eat, he was startled to see her sobbing and shedding tears. The two of them had a talk. Iko was trapped by a nightmare. The terrifying thing haunted her, making her feel more disgusted than ever. As night fell, Ash and Iko's room was quiet. Then suddenly Ash's voice rang out. It turned out he had gotten into bed next to Iko, surprising her. She thought Ash did it to help her sleep peacefully, but it was actually to stop her from wetting the bed again. When these words came out of Ash's mouth, Iko got angry and kicked him so hard that he crashed into the wall, then peacefully went to sleep. In class, Iko dozed off while the professor was lecturing, and Raymond misunderstood it for something else entirely. Suddenly, when looking out the window, Luca's figure appeared today. She finally returned to school. Luca approached Gawain, and although separated by a wall, the bond between them was still felt. But remembering the moment she fell from the dragon's back and the roar it let out filled Luca with fear, and she ran away. Ash saw this and went to tell Rebecca, asking for help. Since he had experienced something similar to Luca's current situation, Ash understood it well and wanted to help her. Rebecca told him there was a way, but the danger level was extremely high. Ash had to ride Gawain like he once did with necromancia in order to sense its emotions. Ash, along with Iko and Sylvia, went to Luca's room to talk. But before saying anything, Luca was already captivated by Iko's cute horn and jumped on her, hugging, biting, and licking her, ignoring Iko's protests. Eventually, Ash managed to speak, asking Luca to go to Gawain's dragon stable where Rebecca was waiting for her. Right after that, Luca boldly changed clothes right in front of Ash and the others. Rebecca wanted Luca to approach Gawain once more, but due to her fear from last time, she tried to run away. Rebecca stopped her. In the end, Ash received permission and approached Gawain, wearing the arch armor made by Iko. What he wanted was to understand why Gawain didn't want Luca to ride him. But as he got closer, Gawain's roar and anger overwhelmed him. A single tail swipe destroyed the dragon stable. At that moment, it seemed Gawain had flown away, but thanks to Rebecca's warning, Ash realized it was right above him, preparing to strike with the terrifying power of a dragon. Gawain attacked, destroying Ash's defensive armor. His vision started to blur amid everyone's worry. That night, Ash sorrowfully apologized for being unable to help Luca and Gawain. Rebecca thought the upcoming training session would be a good chance to uncover the truth. Upon hearing this, Ash quickly volunteered to persuade Luca to participate. Meanwhile, in her room, while soaking in the bath, Luca unconsciously recalled the beautiful moments between her and Gawain. When he was still a small dragon taking his first steps, Luca joyfully caught her cute baby dragon. Suddenly, Ash's voice came from outside the door, checking on her. A little later, Luca invited Ash and Iko into her room and served them tea. Ash apologized for not being able to understand Gawain's emotions. When he noticed Luca falling silent, he quickly changed the topic to the upcoming training. He encouraged her to join, saying she needed to face Gawain once more, that it was a destined path for both of them. The quiet atmosphere between Ash and Luca annoyed Iko. She flipped the tea table in frustration. She pointed at Luca and accused her of being weak and cowardly. Her harsh words made Ash try to stop her, only to be scolded by Iko as well. Refusing to back down, Ash raised his voice and argued back. As the two of them bickered, Luca quietly pondered Ash's words. She recalled the joyful times riding on Gawain's back. Then she spoke up, declaring that she would join Ash and Iko. That night, Milgaus suddenly appeared in Anya's private room. Anya reported her assignment of monitoring Ash and Iko over the past few days. As soon as she mentioned the upcoming training camp, Milgaus suddenly remembered the Willingen tomb, where the ashes of small dragons suitable for experimentation were buried. Milgaus ordered Anya to continue monitoring them and suggested they would meet again at the training camp. After Anya received her orders and left, Milgaus, now alone in the dark room, recalled Iko, the descendant of Avalon, and declared that he would definitely destroy her, Staring at his own shadow flickering on the wall, Milgauss suddenly burst into a sinister laugh, as if speaking to someone named Julius through that shadow. The next morning, just as planned, the students gathered and departed for training. Rebecca traveled with Luca, gently comforting her along the way. Nearby, Max frowned with displeasure at having to accompany Ash, grumbling and warning him not to lay a finger on his dragon. Sylvia and Eiko were assigned to travel together. Eiko enthusiastically took command of Lancelot, leaving Sylvia feeling helpless. Suddenly, Eiko reached out and touched Sylvia, startling her. Sylvia, embarrassed, quickly tried to stop her. But Eiko didn't back down and showed her discontent that Ash only paid attention to the perfect figures of Sylvia and Rebecca without ever noticing her. She believed some mysterious dark magic was drawing Ash's attention away from her and became even more eager to touch and explore Sylvia, leaving her panicked and begging. Upon arrival, Rebecca sternly instructed the students participating in the training. All the students listened attentively, which made Ash unconsciously feel tense. After a while, Rebecca softened her tone and smiled, suggesting that everyone go river bathing for fun. Everyone enthusiastically agreed and joyfully enjoyed the cool water. At that moment, a student noticed Angela walking alone deep into the forest. When asked where she was going, Angela didn't answer directly and only implied that it was a secret. Elsewhere, just as Ash was about to turn and leave, he was suddenly dragged away by Jessica's dragon down the big river. On Sylvia's side, she was extremely embarrassed upon seeing the revealing swimsuit that Cosette had brought over. Sylvia wanted to protest, but Cosette quickly overpowered and forced her to change. The male students were thrilled by the alluring figures of Rebecca and Sylvia in their skimpy swimsuits. Sylvia blushed in embarrassment and complained to Cosette about how revealing her outfit was. Just as Cosette mentioned Ash, Ash was suddenly dragged past Sylvia by Jessica. Riding on Lancelot's back, Eiko expressed her intention to stop Jessica, and Sylvia eagerly joined her to give chase. Ash, caught between all these energetic girls, screamed in distress. That night, Ash accidentally saw Luca walking alone into the forest. Feeling concerned, he quickly followed her. Anya, who had been secretly observing Ash, also followed the two. Ash tailed Luca to a small lake deep in the forest, where she slowly approached and faced Gawain. She gently expressed her feelings to Gawain, saying she wanted to be with him forever and wished to ride him one more time. But just as Luca reached out her hand, Gawain let out a roar of protest. Saddened and confused, she didn't understand why he reacted that way. Ash angrily stepped forward and confronted Gawain, warning him in a harsh tone that he would resort to force if necessary. This angered Gawain, who immediately lunged at Ash. Without any protective armor, Ash could only dodge its attacks. Taking advantage of a moment when Gawain was distracted, Ash leapt from above onto its back. But just as he thought he had gained control, a red circle appeared above his head. Gawain had used the rejection spell to defend itself, sending Ash flying far away. Severely injured, Ash lost consciousness. Still watching, Anya was deep in thought. Remembering how Ash had once saved her, she chose to save him. A while later, Ash regained consciousness in a magical space. Navi had summoned him to the Dragon Armor Workshop, a place reserved for souls. She wanted to show him Gawain's emotions. Gawain wanted to apologize to Ash for hurting him and expressed that his back belonged only to Luca. Navi also recounted how, 3 months ago, while practicing dragon dance, Luca had accidentally fallen off Gawain's back. Since then, Gawain had rejected her out of fear of causing her harm again. Navi also revealed that Gawain only had 5 days left to live. A faint light surrounded Ash, and he escaped the mysterious space, waking up in the real world. He was stunned to see Luca, who was naked and holding him tightly. She believed doing so would help lower his fever. Ash quickly regained his senses and told her everything he had just learned from Navi. After understanding the situation, Luca also understood Gawain's feelings. She hurried off to find Gawain because today was the 5th day of the training session and also its final day. That night, Angela finally arrived at the legendary dragon's tomb. She found a contract book, and as she began reading a few lines about the war between two factions in the old era, Milgauss suddenly appeared and called her by the nickname Anne, the name Prince Julius used to call her. While she was still confused, Angela was knocked unconscious by Anya. Just as Milgauss gave the order to finish her off, a mysterious force stopped him, forcing him to abandon Angela and leave with Anya to prepare for their upcoming plan. At the training camp, Eiko excitedly hugged Ash tightly when he woke up, and Rebecca and Sylvia also came over to check on him. At that moment, Luca hurriedly returned, worriedly calling Gawain's name. As planned, the students enjoyed the party very much. Meanwhile, Ash, Sylvia, Iko, and Luca hurried to find Gawain. Since Ash was still injured, everyone was very concerned. Not long before, Luca had anxiously informed everyone that Gawain had gone missing and the astral flow had been cut off. Rebecca mentioned the Willingham Mausoleum, where a dragon named Nuada didn't want his master to see him weak and gradually disappearing. So he cut off his astral flow and went to die alone in that tomb. Rebecca believed Gawain might have similar thoughts as Nuada. She suggested temporarily postponing the ceremony and having the students surround the Willingham Mausoleum. Ash objected to this idea, wanting everyone to enjoy the party. He insisted on taking care of the matter with Luca. Ash then rushed toward the mysterious Willingham Mausoleum. From above, Milgauss spotted Lancelot's figure and summoned something sinister. Ash and the others finally arrived at the tomb's entrance. A violent earthquake struck, alarming everyone. Strange clouds appeared above their heads, and a sense of dread made Iko increasingly anxious. Suddenly, the tomb's gate opened, and cruel red eyes stared at them. At the party, the students also noticed the strange scene in the distance. Sylvia was caught by filthy tentacles crawling all over her body. Thanks to Lancelot, Sylvia managed to escape. They were all shocked as the vicious dragons approached the training camp. Trusting in Rebecca's ability, the others proceeded with the plan to enter the tomb. Living up to their trust, Rebecca led the students, ready to fight the evil dragons. Drawing near, a fierce battle awaited them all. On Ash's side, everyone quickly entered the tomb. Ash asked Iko to take out the armor so he could fight alongside them. Iko refused, worried that the heavy armor would further injure him. But persuaded by Ash, she agreed to enter the forge and make him a lighter armor. Following her instructions, Ash tightly hugged Iko to protect her body while she sent her spirit to the forge. A while later, they finally went deeper into the tomb. Lancelot suddenly stopped, confusing Sylvia. Milgauss appeared, leaving everyone stunned. Sylvia sternly declared in the name of royalty that she would destroy him, but Milgauss only laughed, infuriating her. He mocked her, saying she was just a coward and a useless person. Milgauss called her Sylvie, triggering memories of her beloved older brother who had been taken away for violating taboos, Prince Julius. Milgauss then turned his attention to Ash and the Avalon princess, Iko, prompting Ash to angrily question him. But Milgauss didn't answer and instead explained in detail about the massive dragon that had just awakened Nuada, now ferocious, his eyes blood red, glaring directly at them. At the Dragon Armor Workshop, Iko cautiously faced Navi. Iko wanted to borrow one of Navi's armor samples to remake it, as she didn't have enough time to create a new one. Navi agreed, but on one condition: Iko would have to hand over the original armor to Ash one day, which meant offering her soul and body to her master. Although dissatisfied, Iko reluctantly accepted. While searching for a suitable armor set, Navi suddenly received news that Ash was in danger, prompting her to quickly finish the armor. At the training camp, the trainees were being cruelly tormented by the tentacles, which ceaselessly wrapped around and slithered all over their bodies. Jessica was also caught in the horrifying scene, tightly bound by the tentacles, but fortunately, her dragon swiftly came to her rescue. Rebecca was continuously fighting off a horde of approaching dragons, beads of sweat forming on her forehead under the immense pressure. Inside the tomb, Sylvia was frantically evading the large tentacles encircling her. Brimming with determination, she believed she could calm Nuada. Meanwhile, the frail Luca was also being entangled by the tentacles, screaming in frustration. The tentacles suddenly seized Iko from Ash's arms. They relentlessly clung to her, but in the critical moment of crisis, Iko finally awakened and consoled Ash. A spell cast by her illuminated the space and destroyed the vicious tentacles. Milgauss couldn't help but praise her radiant brilliance. From within the shimmering light, Ash suddenly launched an attack on him. While Sylvia focused on subduing Nuada, Ash took the opportunity to assault Milgauss. Utilizing the magic of petrification from his armor, he tried to immobilize the ferocious dragons surrounding Milgauss. But the agile Milgauss effortlessly evaded Ash's spell and struck him hard, destroying most of his armor. Once again, Milgauss lunged at Ash, but while he was distracted, Ash swiftly petrified his arm. At that moment, Sylvia returned, having successfully calmed Nuada and stopping Milgauss from retaliating further. However, without hesitation, he broke off his now stone arm. While everyone stood in shock, he quickly escaped. Far away at the training grounds, the ongoing battle still left Luca deeply worried. After the recent fight, Lancelot had exhausted all his strength and could no longer continue. Luca sighed, blaming herself for being unable to help. Suddenly, she grabbed Ash's hand and leapt off the cliff with him. She expressed her wish for Ash to stay by her side so she could gather the courage to support the trainees. Reassured by Ash's promise, Luca felt more confident. She began calling out to Gawain, urging it through her astral flow to return and fight with her. Back at the camp, everyone was gradually reaching their limits due to the overwhelming number of enemies. Just as Rebecca was growing desperate, unable to find a way to deal with the savage dragons, a light from afar drew everyone's attention. Gawain, carrying Luca and Ash, was swiftly returning to the training ground. Flying at great speed, Luca stood tall on Gawain's back and performed the dragon dance of her family. A mysterious blue light appeared in the dark sky. Beams of light rained down, dispelling the fierce dragons and rescuing the surrounded trainees. The students and Rebecca couldn't help but feel proud of Luca's courageous act. Elsewhere, Milgauss was reporting everything to someone, who responded with a sinister smile, affirming that he would personally eliminate anyone who stood in his way at the Continental Congress. The next morning, everyone celebrated their victory at the tomb. Suddenly, a girl arrived to deliver a letter to Sylvia. Her father wanted her to attend the Continental Congress and wished to meet Ash and Eiko as well, leaving Ash confused. In the clear blue sky, Lancelot could be seen carrying Sylvia, Ash, and Eiko on his back. At the same time, Sylvia's calm voice echoed, introducing the Continental Congress and the Lautréamont faction that would be leading it this time. Ash, puzzled, asked why he and Eiko had to attend such an important meeting. Before Ash could finish his sentence, Eiko already voiced her suspicion about the city of Fontaine. After hearing Ash's description, she joyfully expressed her excitement about the unique pancakes here. While they were still chatting lively, Sylvia announced that they had arrived. Upon entering the palace, the servants had lined up respectfully to welcome Sylvia's return. Immediately afterward, Frieda quickly informed her that Oswald was waiting for Sylvia, despite her desire to take Ash and Eiko on a tour. Her determination forced Sylvia to leave helplessly, but even so, she turned back to give Ash and Eiko some instructions. As Sylvia directed, Frieda took them on a tour of important locations within the castle and began explaining why tight security was necessary. When they arrived at Veronica's room, Eiko angrily lunged forward due to Frieda's overly strict demeanor, but Ash quickly stopped her. As soon as the door opened, Primrose's cleaning bucket spilled water all over the three of them. Primrose kept apologizing while Frieda questioned her angrily. As if afraid of making her even angrier, Primrose immediately responded that she didn't like her clothes getting wet while cleaning. After that, Primrose, Frieda, Eiko, and Ash hung up their wet clothes and changed into new ones. Frieda then assigned Primrose the task of cleaning and watching over Ash and Eiko. As Frieda was walking away, a small incident suddenly occurred that made her face turn pale in panic. Seeing this, Eiko immediately jumped forward to cover Ash's eyes from the indecent sight. Back with Sylvia, as she was opening Oswald's room door, his hurried figure came flying toward her so fast that she couldn't help but punch him. Not only did this punch not make him angry, but on the contrary, Oswald even looked more excited than before because Sylvia reminded him too much of his late wife. In the blink of an eye, the two were sitting at the table having a serious conversation about the upcoming parliament. Sylvia became even more curious about why Ash and Eiko were invited, and Oswald eagerly explained that he was just looking for something to kill time, leaving her speechless. At the same time, Veronica's room had already been cleaned up by Ash, and noticing Eiko's curious eyes, he approached and invited her to explore the city with him. At that moment, Sylvia and Oswald's expressions turned more serious than ever when they mentioned their older brother who had been exiled. As she stepped out of the room, Sylvia silently criticized Oswald's terrible lie in her heart. When night fell, the city lit up, and the dazzling lights made Eiko excitedly run around everywhere. She kept asking questions about everything, and Ash and Primrose took her around to eat and have fun. Their joyful moments were being watched by Anya, who had secretly been following them the whole time. Later on, Ash apologized to Primrose, who was tired and lying stretched out on a bench. Before they could get too formal, Eiko loudly called out to Ash, demanding he buy her a pancake. While she was still excitedly ordering, Ash's face gradually turned red from seeing the affectionate couples nearby. Eiko also became confused by what she saw, and even though he was flustered, Ash still tried to explain it to her. The atmosphere around them grew more romantic as Eiko allowed him to hold her hand. They both blushed even more when they saw a couple kissing romantically in front of them. Suddenly, an airship with the Weiterschassen family emblem appeared in the sky, abruptly cutting off the sweet moment. At some point, Cosette had appeared behind them, carrying Primrose over her shoulder, and her unexpected arrival made Ash and Eiko instantly separate. Back at the royal palace, just as Ash and Eiko had changed into formal clothes to meet Oswald, Sylvia entered in stunning attire. Seeing her, Ash didn't hold back his compliments, which made Eiko grit her teeth in anger and grab him while scolding him. While the two were still causing a noisy commotion, Frieda calmly walked in to announce that the banquet was ready. Soon after, they finally met Oswald, who warmly praised them like a friendly king. Ash's face showed clear panic when he saw Oswald bowing seriously and expressing his gratitude for resolving the necromantia issue and the Willingham Church incident. Before Ash could even recover, Oswald announced that from this day onward, Ash would become a Dragonar, shocking everyone and leaving their mouths agape. Oswald gently affirmed that Ash was worthy of the title. In the next moment, he took the sword from Frieda and solemnly bestowed the title of Dragonar upon him. Sylvia, who had been observing nearby, suddenly blushed at the thought that Ash might now be able to marry someone of noble lineage. After they moved into the dinner banquet hall, Oswald calmly answered Sylvia's question about why the Zephyros Empire did not attend the Congress. He then became more enthusiastic when Ash and Eiko agreed to attend the masquerade ball the following evening. In just 1 second, Oswald's tone shifted dramatically as he interrogated Ash about his relationship with Sylvia. Seeing Ash deny it without hesitation, Sylvia turned away in embarrassment and frustration, refusing to even glance at him. The scene then shifts to the Weiterschausen base, where Anya excitedly ran over the moment she saw that Milgaus was still healthy. But she suddenly stopped in her tracks upon seeing him praising his own arm in a strange manner. In the vast space, Klaus's refined voice suddenly echoed as he recounted Milgaus's past, answering all of Anya's questions. Under her astonished gaze, Klaus slowly activated the Yggdrasil magic device and revealed that its testing would begin tomorrow. Hearing the calculating tone in Milgaus's voice, Anya repeated her question in confusion and was informed by Klaus that she needed to kidnap Eiko for the experiment. In her bedroom, Sylvia suddenly had a nightmare of necromantia attacking. It seemed this dream made her realize that the dragon was once her exiled brother's dragon. On her way somewhere, Sylvia was blocked by Veronica, Glenn, and Avdotia. Veronica immediately realized that Sylvia's goal was to search for the remains of her brother's dragon. Just as Sylvia suspected, someone had stolen the remains of dragons from across the country. This news from Veronica only strengthened her suspicion that Milgaus was in fact her exiled brother. As if afraid Glenn and Veronica wouldn't believe her, she went on to recount all the clues she had gathered. Veronica immediately instructed Sylvia to keep this secret, as it concerned the survival of the Lautréamont kingdom. Because her clothes were dirty, Cosette persuaded Sylvia to bathe, and she also joined her at the communal lake. To help relieve stress, Cosette brought along shampoo and body wash and offered to massage Sylvia's front. In the dressing room, Primrose helped Eiko try on clothes, but the young dragon girl wasn't satisfied with any of them. In his room, Ash was feeling down, not knowing what to wear, when Sylvia knocked and entered. She just walked in and quietly sat on the bed beside Ash, with neither saying a word. Eventually, Ash had to speak up and ask if she came for something, breaking the awkward silence. After thinking for a bit, Sylvia decided to share her worries with Ash. Meanwhile, in the dressing room, Eiko had tried on dozens of outfits, but still wasn't satisfied with a single one. Primrose burst into tears over Eiko's pickiness. Eiko wouldn't be happy until she found an outfit that made her look more beautiful than Sylvia. It wasn't that Eiko hated her, it was because Sylvia had been clinging to Ash a lot lately, which made Eiko feel uncomfortable. Primrose explained to Eiko that she was a dragon and Ash was human one day. He would fall in love with a girl, get married, and have children. These words haunted Eiko's mind, and she immediately ran off in distress. Back in Ash's room, he was told that Milgaus was actually Prince Julius. The Emperor couldn't accept this truth calmly. Sylvia recalled how he acted, the stolen remains, what Milgaus said at Willingham Cemetery, and the first necromantia. All of it was evidence. But she didn't know what to do now that she knew her brother was still alive. Ash comforted her by sharing his own story. His father left when his little sister was born. He thought about it a lot and once asked his mother, who promised to tell him when he was older. In short, Ash advised Sylvia not to overthink and instead to go ask directly. Just as the atmosphere between the two had slightly improved, thunder suddenly rumbled loudly outside. Sylvia screamed in fear and clung tightly to Ash, and the two of them fell onto the bed. Seeing that there was no more thunder and lightning, Ash sat up and tried to remove Sylvia from himself. but her weight caused her to fall back onto the bed. Her button popped open, revealing the dragon crest between her ample breasts. Ash blushed and didn't dare do anything beyond pickleball. Sylvia nervously whispered something like giving him the green light, so Ash leaned down. But nothing happened because someone knocked on the door. Cosette announced that the ceremonial outfit for the princess was ready, and upon hearing that, Sylvia immediately left Ash's room. At that moment, in the garden, Eiko was running in the rain. She had known what Primrose said long ago, but her heart still ached every time she thought about it. Eiko tripped and fell face first, crying in heartbreak under the rain. Inside the castle, Ash anxiously searched for Eiko but couldn't find her. Outside, Eiko had lost her way and ended up in front of an old, crumbling structure. There, she unexpectedly saw Anya and a group of Tantalos people disguised and infiltrating the castle. Just then, Primrose also ran outside searching for Eiko, and she alerted Anya, who was holding a gun. Eiko called out to stop Primrose and revealed her own position. Inside the castle, Ash found Cosette and informed her that Eiko and Primrose had gone missing. Cosette reassured him to attend the ball as planned, while she and the servants would split up to search. The ball began on time, with everyone dressed glamorously and wearing masks, the hall bustling with people. But Ash stood alone on the balcony. Sylvia came to comfort him, saying Cosette would quickly find Eiko and Primrose. Suddenly, Ash saw Milgauss walking with Klaus and intended to stop them from attending the party. However, Sylvia stopped him. In the spaceship, Anya stood under the shower, remembering what had happened. At that time, Eiko had struck down 3 of Anya's subordinates and even charged at her. With no other option, she had fired her gun. At the ballroom, Ash stared intently at Klaus. Sylvia advised him to relax since their opponents wouldn't dare do anything here, and she also thanked him for opening up to her. In the castle, the servants reported to Cosette that they hadn't found Eiko anywhere. Cosette looked toward the ruins nearby, the only place they hadn't checked. At the ballroom, Klaus invited Sylvia to dance the next song, but she was more interested in dancing with Milgauss. At the ruins in the back, Cosette found a pair of wooden sandals and blood stains on the ground. The servants had found Primrose unconscious nearby. Back at the ballroom, while Sylvia was dancing with Milgauss, she took the opportunity to ask if he was her brother, why he called her Sylvie, and whether that necromantia was Mordred. However, he didn't answer. After the dance, Cosette came to inform them that Primrose had been found. They all went to the lounge to ask her about Eiko. Primrose was deeply remorseful and guilty because her words had caused Eiko to run off in sadness. Sylvia scolded her, saying Eiko was a dragon born in human form, and if she were Eiko, she too would be scared by the question of why she looked human and not like a dragon. Primrose added that Eiko had been kidnapped. They looked like castle staff, but one of them was a girl resembling someone from the Tantalos tribe. Upon hearing this, Ash became furious and wanted to go question Milgauss. However, Sylvia rationally analyzed the situation. They had kidnapped her but not harmed her, so the best place to hide someone would be Klaus's spaceship, the Beowulf. Inside the spaceship, an inhumane experiment was being initiated. Dr. Albert signaled to inject life wave column No. 11 into the test subject Alpha. They began the countdown, and the current test subject was Eiko. Dr. Albert explained that the life energy being injected was extracted from Millennium. Yggdrasil could awaken the latent power of a dragon, even if it would never become a Maestros. Millennium was a type of gem rich in life energy, extracted from the ashes of a 1,000-year-old dragon. He injected that power into the test subject so she could transform into her true form. Vitality column No. 12 was injected into Eiko, causing her immense pain, but she showed no reaction. Albert coldly ordered the Millennium dosage to be maximized. Tentacle-like chains appeared from nowhere and bound Eiko, cutting off her connection with Ash. Tears fell from Eiko's eyes, only now did she realize her true feelings for him. The final energy transmission caused the Yggdrasil system in the laboratory to lose control and explode. Machinery shattered, Eiko's body glowed, and a holy dragon emblem appeared. Sylvia and Ash, riding Lancelot, were flying toward the spaceship when they saw the explosion. The mark on Ash's hand burned like fire, confirming that something had happened to Eiko. Suddenly, a massive dragon egg appeared in the sky, bearing the exact same emblem as Ash's hand. He muttered, "Could Eiko be inside that?" At that moment, Ash asked Sylvia to help rescue Eiko, so she tried to command Lancelot to save her. But Lancelot refused to obey. All the Maestros began flying toward the egg, and it suddenly cracked open. Ash concluded it had to be Eiko. The scene shifted to Veronica walking and discussing state affairs. Meanwhile, guests at the palace party were outside watching the commotion. Klaus Weiterschassen was deliberately blaming the chaos on La Tremont. As the dragon advanced, people began fleeing in panic. Veronica then encountered Julius, who revealed that he was no longer himself, but someone else inhabiting Julius Pal's body, the true heir to the Shadow Kingdom of Nehelania, who had long fought against the Avalon Empire. The two bloodlines had split from the wise dragon King Imbiok. Julius had discovered Mordred's existence, who had taken his shadow and haunted him. Mordred revealed his ambition to turn humans into pets and prey. At that time, Julius had made a pact with the forbidden rules of dragon slaying. Glenn, furious, attacked Mordred, believing he was the true cause of everything, and that they had wrongly accused Julius. However, they were no match for him. Mordred walked toward the dragon and exited Julius's body. Veronica rushed to stop him but was engulfed in darkness. Inside, she was stripped down like a naked chicken and humiliated like a slave doll. Just before losing herself, she unexpectedly saw Julius again. He reminded her that Mordred was now controlling Eco. Glenn also arrived to remind them of something. On Ash's side, he was calling out to Eco. She had been taken over by Mordred and transformed into another form. Navi sat upright inside her as Mordred's eerie voice echoed, asking if she was Dragways, and demanding she hand over her vast knowledge. If Mordred could merge with Navi, he would be fully reborn as the Dark King. Navi refused because she didn't want to become like Nehelania. She supported the princess and the Knights of Avalon, and praised Ash for being far superior to Mordred. Enraged, Mordred summoned his tentacles to attack Navi. The scene shifted outside. Eco was rising into the air. Ash rushed forward to save her, but Sylvia stopped him. By now, Veronica had come out with Julius and Glenn, explaining that this wasn't Milgaus but Julius. Julius stepped up and presented a plan. First, they had to force Mordred out of Eco's body. As long as Navi kept resisting him, Mordred couldn't fully resurrect, giving them a chance to bring Eco back. Julius knew this because Mordred had gained his memories, and he had regained Mordred's as well. Julius explained that he had obtained the airship by manipulating Veronica, who had a shameful secret she couldn't reveal to others, so she reluctantly lent him the ship and promised to let him log out after they returned. Meanwhile, Ash was closing in on Eco. At that moment, Ash was approaching Eco. Sensing a threat, Eco's body immediately fired a beam of light toward Ash. Julius, piloting the ship, skillfully evaded the blasts. Meanwhile, Navi was battling against the enemy by summoning chains to restrain him. Ash continued to rush toward Eco, who was currently trapped inside a cage. Navi appeared before her and approached to share a portion of the knowledge she possessed. Then, Navi showed Eco an image of Ash desperately trying to reach her and save her. Eco was deeply moved and determined to save Ash. Navi, pleased with her resolve, released the cage and told her that what Eco needed to do now as the Princess of Avalon was to create an ark for Ash. Outside, Eco's body, now under Mordred's control, was making it nearly impossible for Ash to approach. He had fallen, but fortunately, Luca arrived just in time to rescue him. Everyone else soon followed and decided to work together to help Ash reach Eco's body. After attacking Mordred, they signaled Luca to charge in close, allowing Ash to leap forward. Sensing Ash's approach, Mordred fired a beam at him, sending Ash into another dimension. There, Eco appeared and grabbed his hand. Eco finally succeeded in creating the ark to save Ash. Though it wasn't fully complete, it saved him at the critical moment. Ash quickly summoned Excalibur. Mordred launched another attack, but Ash effortlessly blocked it. Advancing forward, Ash slashed off the horns on Mordred's head, making him cry out in pain. At that moment, the massive body disappeared, the sky turned clear again, and Eco returned to her human form. Ash embraced her, and together with everyone, they returned safely. The world was now bright and beautiful. The scene shifted. Soldiers had captured Anya, who was trying to escape. But by the time they reached her, she had collapsed from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Ash was resting in bed. Mordred had managed to escape. After Sylvia and the others left, the Continental Parliament had been destroyed. Everyone fled in chaos, including Klaus Weiterschassen. Julius considered this a promising new beginning and believed the rest should be handled by politics. Everyone said goodbye to Ash and promised to see him again at school. Now only Ash and Eco remained in the room. Eco sat shyly beside him. Ash began to say he wanted to become her knight, but Eco stopped him. She didn't want that. She wanted something more, a different kind of relationship with Ash. Ash looked at her in surprise, then leaned in and kissed her as a sign of agreement.